However, because Scotland was incredibly poor compared to England and could not provide all the craftsmen, masons, carpenters and blacksmiths necessary to build new towns, new villages and fortifications, the Scottish settlers would need to be supplemented with English settlers. These largely came from Cheshire, Lancashire, East Anglia and Devon. By January 1610, and this is where your story starts, the English, well, arguably starts, the English Privy Council succeeded in persuading, and that's persuading surrounded with inverted commas, the immensely wealthy city of London to assume responsibility for the plantation of the city of Derry, the county of Coleraine and the barony of Loch Shollen in County Tyrone. If I pronounced that correctly, I just don't know. Right, okay. Polyprofessor. Probably in it, actually. We're in the barony of Loch Shollen. The minute books of the London livery companies are full of comments such as, "It would be very foolish to intermeddle," I think that would be a word which we would translate these days as intervene, "in this business, for it would be exceedingly chargeable." And what they mean by exceeding chargeable is very expensive. It is clear from the outset that the Londoners had no stomach for the plantation of Ulster. They believed it would be troublesome and a bottomless pit as far as money was concerned. It was only when several respectable citizens had been jailed, fined and further threatened that the City of London knew it had to bow to the demands of the Crown and commit its resources and ingenuity to colonising part of the territory. 4 leading citizens of London were invited to inspect the lands here. The survey was organised by Chichester. He made sure that the deputation from London did not see English surveyors carrying out their work under armed guard, because several surveyors had actually been killed by the Gaelic Irish, who did not wish to see their lands discovered. And it was also arranged that they only saw the most attractive parts of County Londonderry. Now, I leave you to guess what they might have been. Well, I might actually make some reference to that, I don't know. The Londoners were entertained and stayed in new English houses with as much comfort as could be mustered. They also saw the great rivers of the Foyle and the Bann teeming with fish and rich agricultural produce that could only be garnered from lands in the fertile valleys. Their host was Sir Thomas Phillips, and he was the governor of Coleraine. And as the phrase went at the time, he acted as host, guide and watchman. And Cyril Fall said that he looked after them in the same way as in the former Soviet Union. Western visitors were carefully guided round to see the nice and acceptable face of the Soviet Union and kept well away from those things which were unacceptable. So Sir Thomas Phillips ensured that they were not shown much of the wilder, mountainous parts of the county, the Sperrins, where the Irish Cairn, the native Irish, lived, and where the terrain was unfriendly. The Londoners, I suppose, were no fools, and they decided they would only undertake the work if the territory in which they were to work was expanded. So this is how they managed to get land that was not in County Coleraine. They asked for lands east of the Bann, which would have been in County Antrim, on which they would build a new town and establish its hinterland, or liberties, in other words, Coleraine. They also asked for land on the west bank of the Foyle, on which to build their new city and establish its liberties. Because if you look at a map, that objectively Londonderry City is in County Donegal, but basically part of Donegal was carved out, and that's where they built Londonderry. And they demanded the great forest of Loch Shollen here in County Tyrone, as it was, in order to provide timber for building activities. Now, basically, the City of London demanded these things, and the Crown thought, well, maybe if we don't agree to this, they may not entirely play ball. So the Crown agreed to this, and that's how the city and County of Londonderry came into existence. Now, it's worth pointing out that at no time before or since has there ever been an Irish county called Derry. And I want to stress to you that it is absolutely historical nonsense to refer to a place called County Derry. Now, the diocese has always been called Derry, but when it came to building the new city on the banks of the Foyle, the city was renamed Londonderry. And it's worth pointing out the Londonderry's walls, which were built by the London companies and completed after a fashion in 1618, mark it out as the last fortified city to be built in Western Europe. The City of London raised £20,000, 15,000 for the plantation itself, and a further 5,000 for buying out other interests. It's just impossible to calculate really how much money that this would entail in modern terms, but we're talking about huge amounts of money. In Londonderry, the city, there were to be 200 houses built, with room left for a further 300. In Coleraine, 100 houses were to be built, with provision for a further 200. Land in this county was parcelled out among the 12 principal London companies. The first parcel of land was given to the Goldsmiths, and they were given the area south-east of Londonderry city. The area, the principal farmer or undertaker to lease the area was a man called John Freeman, and he was based in new buildings. The grocers were allocated Muff. The principal undertaker there was a man called Edward Roan, and the centre of his activities was Muff. The fishmongers were allocated the territory around Ballykelly. The principal farmer or undertaker there was James Higgin, and they also had an interesting place called Artykelly. The haberdashers were also given territory around Artykelly. The principal farmer or undertaker there was Sir Robert McLennan, and he was based at Ballycastle. Now, whether that's Ballycastle in County Antrim or whether there's another Ballycastle in County Londonderry, I quite frankly don't know. The cloth workers were given the territory around Killowen and Artyclave. The principal undertaker there was also Sir Robert McLennan. Now, whether it was the same Sir Robert McLennan is not clear to me. It probably is, but that's just supposition on my part. It may have been something different. The merchant tailors were allocated land around McCosquin, and the principal farmer or undertaker there was Valentine Hartop, and he, obviously enough, he was based in McCosquin. The ironmongers were awarded land around Akadui and Agaive. And the principal farmer or undertaker there would have been George Canning. Now, this George Canning almost certainly was an ancestor to George Canning, the celebrated early 19th century British Foreign Secretary and the man who was briefly Prime Minister in 1827. The Mercers were allocated land at Movanagar, and I don't know, it doesn't seem to be any indication who the principal farmer or undertaker was there. Movanagar is interesting in that of all the places that I've named, Movanagar is the one that was set up and then disappeared. It was on the shores of the River Bann and was destroyed during the 1641 rebellion. A number of these places were attacked during the 1641 rebellion, but they were rebuilt. The conspicuous exception is this place called Movanagar. The vintners were awarded territory around Balaki. The two principal farmers or undertakers in this area were John Rowley and Baptist Jones. The salters were awarded territory around Macrofelt, and the principal undertakers in this area were William Finch and his partners, and they were based at both Macrofelt and Salterstown. The drapers were allocated money more, and the principal undertaker there was Sir Thomas Roper. The skinners were awarded area of the land around Dungiven, and the principal farmer or undertaker was Sir Edward Doddington. I'd mentioned before that when the London companies came over to visit Londonderry and have a look round, their host and guide and minder was Sir Thomas Phillips. Now he had previously had land in and around Coleraine and Limavady, but that he had land at Coleraine that was taken off him, and he was given some 3,000 acres around Limavady and Castle Dawson. And he was also given the job of looking after the Fort Tomb.